didn't see her die. You didn't see her, you didn't put a bullet in her head. And he goes, well, no. And Perry got angry and upset with him and started yelling at him. He says, you can't kill anybody unless you shoot him in the head. And he walked up to a man, just a bystander, they had no connection with, who happened to be talking on a public telephone, and just shot him in the head and said, this is how you kill somebody.
Wayne would kill in broad daylight in front of dozens of witnesses. He had the city in such fear, nobody would dare testify against him. And for those who did, it usually didn't end too well. There was a young woman by the name of Alveda Hopkins who had witnessed her friend, James Henson, aka Frog, be gunned down by Wayne Perry, and she agreed to work with the police. And once Wayne found out about this, he came up with a plan to get rid of her. He found her walking in her neighborhood and had one of his underlings knock her unconscious and put her into a van. And as they were driving around, she woke up. She seen Wayne Perry sitting right next to her, and she was paralyzed with fear. She already knew what was gonna happen. And according to Alpo, Wayne put in the Eazy-E song titled, "A Bitch is a Bitch," and proceeded to stab her multiple times in her face, hands, and chest. Then he took out a .357 and shot her 4 times as the music blasted inside of the van, and they would later dump the body on Interstate 295. But Wayne really didn't need a reason to kill somebody. It was a young woman by the name of Yolanda Burley who met Wayne at a party and started asking him questions like who he was, where was he from, things like that. And for some reason, Wayne took this as she was a cop. She must have been trying to set him up or something. And he had this woman kidnapped and murdered simply for asking him too many questions. And Wayne would protect Alpo's drug empire at all costs. Even though he was never really a part of the drug dealing operations, he was just the enforcer. But that was an extremely important part of the operation because he kept all of the heat off of Alpo from all of the other killers in DC.
I mean, this kid had DC in fear. I mean, this kid just didn't care. He was murdering everything that was moving.
When Poe hooked up with Wayne, that was the best thing that happened to Poe.
The average dude getting money down here would have loved to have Wayne on their team. And he had Wayne on his team.
But despite the word being out that Wayne was now on Alpo's team, certain gangsters in the city didn't bow down. They still tried to lean on Alpo and extort him. One in particular was really putting pressure on him. And Alpo, he wanted him gone. But this dude was a real killer. Matter of fact, Wayne Perry knew about him, and he respected him too. He knew he had put in work. So when Alpo came to him and told him to get rid of him, Wayne said, yeah, I'll do it, but you're gonna have to pay me some extra on this one. And not too long after receiving the hit money from Alpo, Wayne went on a hunt. He hopped in his Benz and started cruising the city. He ended up spotting his target uptown. Wayne parked his Benz and waited for the right moment to strike. Wayne seen the guy getting out of his truck, but he had his back turned, almost like he was looking for something. Wayne exited his vehicle with his gun in hand and slowly started walking over to the man. And as he had his back turned to Wayne, Wayne raised up his gun and aimed it straight for his head. And just before Wayne started firing, he turned around, and the last thing he seen was Wayne Perry letting off multiple shots. And after killing the man in broad daylight, Wayne calmly walked back to his vehicle where a few of his young killers were waiting. And once inside, he looked around and said, let's go get something to eat. No mercy. Wayne was once quoted as saying, I don't do that across the street shit. I walk up on you and put 7 in your head like it ain't nothing. They became very close and would spend a lot of time together. And people would say, why wouldn't Wayne just kill Alpo and take all his money? Well, Alpo was taking care of Wayne. He knew how to feed the wolf, and over time he gained Wayne's trust. They were like brothers. Alpo and Wayne was building a bond like brothers, and they were doing it in blood. And if you disrespected Alpo, you disrespected Wayne. Just like the story of Demencio Benson, who was killed in the middle of a basketball game in front of hundreds of witnesses for allegedly disrespecting Alpo's wife. And the bloody reign of Alpo and Wayne would continue. Next up was Andre Tank Johnson, who was a legendary drug dealer out of DC, who was killed by Alpo out of jealousy and envy over a woman he was sleeping with, the baby mom of Big Head Gary. And Big Head Gary didn't like this at all. And they had words, but eventually they talked, and the beef was supposed to have been squashed. But it wasn't squashed. Big Head Gary wanted Andre dead, and Alpo called him up for a drug deal, but it was really a setup. Andre's right-hand man, legendary DC gangster, Ears to Christ, he told Andre, "Let me come with you, man. I don't trust them dudes." But for some reason, Andre, he didn't take him with him. He ended up going at it alone. He would later be found shot to death behind a gas station. And to this day, his good friend Ears to Christ still regrets not having an opportunity to be there to have Andre's back, and still doesn't know why he didn't take him with him.
He left me, and I regret I wasn't there to watch his back, but it is what it is, you know, 'cause I can't change it.
So the kid Andre is coming from the back seat to the middle seat now with the bag of money. So as soon as the kid Andre turns around to look at me and let me know that's the bag, that my man Gary's coming in the car and hit him right in the head. Boom! My man Gary was strapped all the time. He knew he was gonna kill him.